be funding made available for 3 early career postdoctoral research fellowships that will broadly be quite interdisciplinary in scope, guided by some key topics which we'll get to. And it's for a space of time frame of a year. So the Disability Under Siege programme is funded by the Global Challenges Research Fund in the UK, and that funding comes through the Arts and Humanities Research Council. We're halfway through the programme now. We started 2 years ago in April 2020, and it'll go on for another 2 years. And our focus is on Palestine, Lebanon, and Jordan. And the fundamental challenge that the programme is addressing is the fact that most children with disabilities in the region never go to school. And so we're taking a very interdisciplinary approach to addressing this issue. It's not just an issue of, physical access into schools. It's also about how disability is actually understood by society, local communities, as well as policymakers and practitioners. And it also engages with the debates between biomedical models, social models. So it's really a broad scope. And the program it's not a research project. What we're doing is that we're scoping, the first part was that we were scoping what is known about this issue, where are the priorities and where are the research gaps. And the stage we're in now is, commissioning work. And part of that commissioning is also these 3 postdoctoral fellowships. So just to say something now about the research fellow funding call, the aim is to build research capacity and to support the development of longer term intellectual resources in the disability sector, with the focus being, as I've said, on Jordan, Lebanon, and Palestine. And part of this will be through funding these 3 postdoctoral research fellowships. And there are a number of areas that we're potentially interested in. And within that, we're interested, in your ideas and what you might propose. So, for example, there's one theme that we're particularly interested in is looking at disability within context of conflict. I mean, this was also because this was funded under a theme, education in conflict, and our particular angle was looking at disability. So we're interested also in constructions of disability arising from armed violence. There's relatively less research on that. There's, a bigger field of research on disability, but not necessarily so much really trying to tease out what are some of the differences when disability arises from armed violence and the socio-political and historical context to that. We're also very interested in disability as a social movement, so linking up with ideas of social change. There's been a fair amount of work on social change. Disability is clearly becoming a social movement with disability-led organizations leading and participating in policy debates and really pushing forward in practical changes. We're also quite interested, I guess, more on scientific side, but it's also conceptual as well, on methodological developments. We see in the region, there's an awful lot of involvement from international organizations, the UN organizations, other governments, which bring in international measures of disability. There are various debates around what might be the best measures, which are universal. Are some of these measures, do they work fully within certain contexts? And just, I guess, problematizing the measure of disability, and thinking about what why measure it? What are its purposes? And thinking about existing measures, are they disaggregated by disability, gender, locality, and other variables? So that whole area is also of interest. And then also the area of intellectual, cognitive, or learning disabilities. There's again less research in this area, looking at attitudes. How are these forms of disability understood, both by those with disabilities, their families, communities, service providers, policymakers, and interest in their lived experience and their life outcomes with regards to education, but various other, a person a person doesn't just live in a single sector. So even though the focus is on education, we're interested in related domains as well, health and well-being, employment, etc. And then another area, there's in the field of disability studies, it's taken a more critical turn. Most of the knowledge on disability has been produced in the global north, that this is being changed and challenged. And so work around decolonization of disability is also welcomed. And then also, we're particularly interested, even across all these strands, I should have said that, we're interested in particular in arts and humanities, both as methodologies, but also, as part of all of these things. So, for example, the role of arts and humanities can come up within, say, the second area, disability as a social movement, same with the first area, on how we understand disability arising from armed violence. But the last area that we've outlined is focusing specifically on methodology. So disability, arts, and digital methodologies also, and applications for pedagogy and curriculum in inclusive education. We just go to the next slide. Yeah. Now, in terms of eligibility criteria, so the idea is, within the spirit of supporting research infrastructure in the region, and strengthening that. The idea is that applications can be made by a research organization, for example, a university or a research institute, NGO, arts and cultural organization, etc., who can host the proposed candidate to participate in the program. And the research organization will need to have capacity to have infrastructure around the necessary ethical, administrative, and safeguarding aspects to support the delivery of the research fellows' work as they progress throughout the year. And in terms of the candidate criteria, so this is a postdoctoral fellow. We're looking for a higher degree, PhD, that's completed or close to completion, that it would be in an area of relevance to the work, so related to disability and interests in education and learning. And also the ability to undertake field research in the region, so whether the focus is on Jordan, Lebanon, or Palestine, and ideally to have Arabic language skills and also strong methodological skills. So, whether that's on the quantitative or qualitative side, or mixed methods as well. And also kind of an orientation in the spirit of the program in interdisciplinary approaches, and also kind of an interest or engagement in exploring new ways of research. So whether that's co-production or quite participative methods, those would be, or artistic methods, those would be particularly welcomed. Okay, so these are some basic details. As I've mentioned already, there will be enough funds for 3 roles of up to 40,000 each, and it's a year. Though ideally we'd like people to start in September. And there's some extra funds that would also be available for each postdoctoral fellow for support with travel and expenses that relate to the research activities. So the call is open right now. It'll close on the 22nd of May. And then we hope to review and turn it around quite quickly so that successful applicants would be notified by June. Here, this is just some detail on how we will be assessing, applications. So clearly, we want to see someone who's a strong researcher based on a track record and their existing research, their capacity for leadership in the research domain. So looking at, being able to evidence working in the field to date and, influence through networks, etc. And potential of the proposed research program executed with the Disability Under Siege program to position the applicant to have significant impact through a research-intensive career. And then fourthly, that there would be alignment and synergy between the applicant's research ambitions and also for the program to benefit strategically from engaging with the applicant's work. And then these criteria will be rated 1 to 6, where 1 is exceptional through to 6, which is not suitable for funding. So there will be support. The idea is that, we're here to support interested applicants, and Ted and Sarah in particular will be available for support around process and procedural aspects. And there'll be another drop-in session in just over a month's time. There's an email contact, that you can reach out to us for, more specific questions. But, just rest assured also in terms of also language, there can be support around language if English is not as strong as Arabic. Arabic is, being the first language, so that shouldn't be a barrier. So that's just an overview, brief introduction. We're very happy to take any questions now.
We will post the presentation on the website as well as a recording of this call, so that will be available. Mustafa, Fadl.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Dina, for such an informative presentation and giving a nutshell about the fellowship. I have some questions to share. For sure, I'm one of the candidates, so I'll be interested to apply. Therefore, I have some things in my mind to share as a reflection to what you have said. So the first one is at the beginning of your presentation, you have mentioned key important areas that there is sorry, 1 second. Sorry, my software was speaking. So you have mentioned numerous areas such as education, such as social movements, disability and social movements, and I'm thinking how the fellowship would be, or how the person, the researcher, would be able to link between all of these dimensions together. Because you have then referred to the experiences and eligibility and mentioned that the person should be should got a specific experience of education. So if he got a good experience on disability and social movement, or maybe a specific research experience and evidence in inclusive employment, but not on education, would that be a barrier for him/her to apply? So this is the first question about the linkages and about the eligibility criteria. And the second question is about the if I am an individual researcher who are interested to apply, got several connections and partnerships with organizations and stakeholders, working as a consultant maybe with them, or working as a government in one of the government organizations, but I'm not affiliated to a specific organization. Am I eligible to apply as an individual researcher, or I should have an organization that like hosting me? Because the question would be which organization and whether their vision are in line with the objective of the fellowship or not. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mustafa. So the first question on the linkages. So, I mean, what I outlined are different areas of potential interest. So there's no need to address more than one, or there could be, you know, it's really just to prompt thinking and signify kind of areas that have come up for us in our scoping, where there is either, you know, a dearth of research evidence, or, you know, there are priorities for, you know, from a practitioner and policy perspective to engage with these issues. So you don't need to link across the different issues. You can choose one area, but there's really a lot of flexibility. It's not supposed to constrain. It's really to kind of prompt thinking and ideas. And I mean, my approach is that, you know, areas are interconnected. So you may well have done your PhD, say, focused on, you know, students with disabilities in school, but yet your postdoctoral proposal might be around then transitions to employment, and that would be perfectly acceptable. You know, there's a link, but you don't
increase education and employment.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that you're not just replicating what you've done already. You know, there should be a growth aspect that, you know, clearly, but you can demonstrate that, you know, a rationale for yourself and your own personal development, but also kind of fulfilling, you know, how it fits with the program, etc. For the second question, I'm going to hand that over to Ted, because we have had some discussions about that. So, Ted.
Mustafa, one of the reasons for structuring the call to be hosted by a research institute is because there are a number of processes and frameworks which would need to be put in place to undertake research in the field. And that would include you know, sort of an ethical review of any proposed research through ethical review boards by a local entity that would understand the situation. There are also logistical and administrative support that might be required to undertake field research. And I'm thinking there around security, access, you know, right to work, which institutions are better or are able to put in place, whereas individuals working on a consultant basis are likely not. And really that's linked to the duty of care and onwards to a safeguarding framework within which that individual would reside, and any research that it would take would have to adhere to. So we are in the first instance and favouring those that are working or hosted by an institution. There is the potential to link with institutions if you're not already linked with them and have discussions about being hosted by them, and that could be remotely or that could be through the partners that we have already on the network. So to have those discussions about whether it would make sense. But a key part of the Disability Under Siege program is to build the local capacity of researchers and research institutes in the region. So we're encouraging applications from Jordan, Lebanon, and Palestine, because we see it's sort of a longer term aim to build the human resource and intellectual capacity in those institutions. So that's part of the reason for structuring it that way as well.
I just also add that the postdoctoral fellowship, it's envisioned to be a full-time post for 1 year. So it would be probably not feasible to be either continuing with a current role or multiple other commitments at the same time. But as Ted says, if you're currently an individual not within a university or research institution, we can also support. I mean, what I should also have mentioned is that also will be each successful postdoctoral fellow will be affiliated with a mentor who is would be one of the co-Is from the region. We have co-Is in Lebanon and Jordan.
Yeah.
Lebanon and Palestine. We have networks in Jordan, although there wouldn't be an academic mentor. So, just to say, if you're currently an individual, it shouldn't be seen as a barrier. I think there are possibilities to talk with universities or research institutes that you can see yourself potentially aligned with.
So as a follow-up, I'm sorry, this will be the last question and I will shut up then. So as a matter of follow-up, like we're talking here about research institutions. We're talking here about research institutions in Jordan, Lebanon, or Palestine. Or, for example, I can contact Leeds University, for example, and ask them to connect and apply as research institutes through Leeds. Is that something could happen, or also we can apply through DPOs and or NGOs within the Arab region as well, like for example small or medium-sized organizations? So is it research institute only, or also civil community organizations, and is it in the region only, or also could be a research institute from the UK?
It could be a research institute from the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Including University of Birmingham.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 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 Thank you. Sorry about that. I just would like to understand. Thank you.
Just wondering, Zaina or Maha, if you have any specific questions.
No. And as I said, next is it next week? Have we got a drop-in session? Is that today? Oh no, sorry. In 28th of April, we'll have another session for anyone to come on if any questions arise when you've looked at the application form and the call description. But please feel free to email any questions to the email link, and we'll respond.
Yes, I mean, once you've had it's kind of really early because we've only just opened the call, so you probably haven't had time to think or formulate what you might want to do. But for the time when it comes around to the next meeting, if you're still interested in submitting an application, you'll have had time to kind of think, and you might have more specific questions either on the process side or on the content and the framing of it. So be very happy to hear from you again.
Yeah, and it would be nice, Ted, if you don't mind to share with me the link again, because I have seen the link for today's meeting, but I didn't manage to see properly the call, the link for the call. So if you don't mind, forward that to email. This would be much appreciated.
No problem.
Of course.
No
Thank
problem. And all the information is on our website under current opportunities.
Okay, so under CG project, current opportunities, then the information will be there.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Brilliant.
Okay.
All good. Brilliant.
If there aren't any further questions, I guess we'll close it here, and look forward possibly to further dialogue.
Fantastic. Thank you, Zena.
Okay. Take care then.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.